Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Cheeky Natives. This is your boy Letlogonolo in all things literature. I'm recording all the way from the United States of America, finding myself situated in Los Angeles in this winter, which isn't as cold as the winter in New York. But the guest that we'll be speaking to is the amazing author of Bone, Yrsa Daley-Ward, also a gorgeous, gorgeous young woman who is just slaying the literary scenes and the poetry scenes, and also just changing the way that we consume poetry. She's found some of her fame just using shorter versions of her poem on Instagram and just has skyrocketed. Hi, Yrsa, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. You find yourself in the cold, snowy New York. How's that going?
I do. Do you know what? I was so scared about experiencing the winter here, being here for these months. But it's lovely. It's lovely. It's bright every day. You know, the sun comes out in the morning. I'm not used to that sun and cold at the same time. Where I'm from in England, it's grey in the winter. So this is lovely.
Yes. I think one of the first questions that I want to ask you is, obviously you've wrote this incredible healing body of work called Bone. And I wanted to know, firstly, the title is very provocative because it touches on a lot of things. But when you chose the title of the book, why did you choose this particular title?
Well, actually, the reason it's called Bone is just because it was the closest thing I could think of to something that's inner, something that is raw and, you know, close to the bone. The poems are close to the bone, so it made sense to call it that. And all the other connotations worked as well. So, it was, and I liked the single word title.
And I really enjoyed reading your book. I think for various reasons, I found myself nodding along. And I know also Nahira Wahid says, your book is called A Symphony of Breaking and Mending. This whole book is an ache and a plum. And there's a particular poem in your book where you say, you will be bruised and you will come away bruised, but this will give you poetry. And obviously the poem speaks a lot about things that have happened in your life, but you say it will give you poetry. And I wanted to know, what does that mean, it will give you poetry?
It's my belief that everything that happens in life, and I know, not a lot of people believe this and some don't, but, it's kind of all happening to inform you or to help you, even those difficult things. And we all have difficult things that happen. So when I say it will give you poetry, I mean, as artists, as creatives, and I think that everybody is in some sense a creative, we can use these things. We can use these things in life to enrich ourselves and to inform ourselves, and to become softer and to become more loving and to gain understanding. So that's what I mean when I say it will give you poetry. Or, it will give you something to write about, if nothing else.
I think also you obviously also have a poem in your book, Bone. Would you mind talking through it with me and just perhaps reading Bone for us and then just talking to us about your experiences of writing Bone and what it means to you?
Absolutely. Bone. From one who says, don't cry, you'll like it after a while. And two who tells you thank you after the fact and can't look at your face. To three who pays for your breakfast and a cab home and your mother's rent. To four who says, but you felt so good, I didn't know how to stop. To five who says giving your body is tough, but something you do very well. To six who smells of tobacco and says, come on, I can feel that you love this. To those who feel bad in the morning. Yes, some feel bad in the morning. And sometimes they tell you you want it. And sometimes you think that you do. Thank heavens you're resetting, ever setting and resetting. How else do you sew up the tears? How else can the body survive?
How else do you sew up the tears? How else can the body survive? Wow. I believe obviously this touches on a lot of things, but in particular, like, what does this poem mean to you? And have you found healing in writing the words that are true to you?
Well, I find healing in the whole process, whether I'm conscious or not. And that could be from the beginning when it's just coming out, or in performance, or when you're just sharing it. There's healing in all of it. I don't specifically set out to heal myself doing this, but healing is a byproduct of doing anything creative, I think.
That's really deep. I really enjoyed your liking things. You say women who are brought up devoted and fearful get stirred like anyone else, want men, want other women, stink up their arms at the end of the day, get that all too familiar mix of fear and discontent in the night, want to do the things that they must not do, those dirty, bloody, attractive things. And I think it speaks a lot about, like, I don't know, in particular, I feel like the experiences of Black women, how was it like growing up as a Black woman?
Well, that's a large answer to that. I can give you my experience. Particularly with this poem, I'm talking about growing up, under, maybe a strict sense of duty and religion, and not a sort of turning away from what is your natural desire. We are sort of conditioned out of what is very natural to us often, and that's what the poem is about. It's about the things that we really feel that we try to sometimes move away from, but you can't. You know how you really feel about stuff. There's no running away from that.
Yes.
So that's what it's about, liking things. And I remember when I used to live in South Africa, it was a phrase that was used a lot. You like things. So it's kind of a nod to that.
Talking about South Africa, you have a beautiful poem here called Standa Sami. Is it possible to read this poem to us?
Yes, it absolutely is. This poem means a lot to me, just because of, I guess I wrote it for someone, actually to kind of, impress them with my with the few words that I use. But I'll give that to you. Let me find it. Let me see if I... Sorry, love. I'll be a second.
It's okay.
Just trying to find it. Stanwa Sami. In the early hours of this morning, it was far too hot for anyone to sleep. You told me I was strange and kissed me. Sunk your teeth into my soft bottom lip twice. So hard I thought you drew blood. I keep getting the feeling that if you look at me for long enough, you may see that I have 1,000 fears, just like your mother who never really wanted you to leave. Meanwhile, Nina, I am catching up on the sleep that we missed. I'm waiting patiently to feel normal again. My thoughts about you are frightening but precise. I can see the house on the hill where we grow our own vegetables out back and drink warm wine out of jam jars and sing songs in the kitchen until the sun comes up. Wena, you make me feel like myself again. Myself before I had any solid reasons to be anything else. Last night you gave me the space to dream bigger than the single bed. You laughed in your sleep and I cried in mine, and this afternoon we might be tired. We might be tired because the sun is fierce today and so much happened between midnight and now. But Baba, you are terror and brilliance. So I'm the kind of woman who's already teaching my body to miss yours without craving. I'm the type of woman who's already teaching my heart to miss yours without failing. And I'm quite sure that you'll find this unnecessary, but I'm still looking for a place to run and hide. When you say, Utando luami, I'm ready. Are you? You know, I'd quite easily go with you to the other side of the world with only the clothes I'm wearing and the loose change and empty peanut shells in my purse. Kodwa. Every time you leave the room, I worry and think, perhaps I've imagined you, or maybe you've imagined me.
This is an absolutely stunning poem, and I think, like, even though you speak about your experiences, there are lots of us people who've been in love or sometimes unrequited love can relate to the piece. And I think in particular, because you've spent some time in South Africa, how was that time for you in South Africa? Like, did you learn anything new about yourself? How was it being in, coming from London, which is not necessarily predominantly black, and going to a country where blackness is in its fullness? What did that mean to you?
Oh, I learned so much. I learned so much about myself and the world around me. I learned about South Africa because obviously, initially I wanted to go for 2 months and I ended up there for 3 years. I learned how different blackness is and how similar it is. That huge circle, but, and the politics, I was, all I knew was, I had very limited knowledge. I knew about apartheid and Nelson Mandela. I mean, that was it. But it was eye-opening, my time there, and to really not only visit but just integrate. That was my life. I was living in Cape Town, and I learned a lot about my own resilience. I went over there with no money at all, and still managed to stay. And it was, I learned the best of things and the worst of things there as well. Personally, financially, career-wise, there were just so many ups and downs, but it was wonderful. It was really wonderful.
And I mean, I think even this poem, in some ways, it speaks about a love that's really important and a love that's close to you, but it's also somewhat uncovered about heartbreak and potential heartbreak. And I feel like a lot of the poems that I read in Bone have a certain tinge of heartbreak and speak about, the not so good things about love.
Right.
Do you think that you have different ideas about love now from when you wrote Bone?
Yeah, because we're always changing, aren't we? And we are hopefully always evolving. And yes, I do. I look to myself first instead of maybe looking for another person to be all the things I thought a person should be a few years ago when I was there. I think my idea of love and what it is and what it should be have completely changed. But I know I hope that they completely change again in another couple of years. It is wonderful, the act of shedding and gaining things, like this constant, like, moving through phases and ideas of what what you want. We should be changing, no? So yes, in a word, yes, my ideas are completely different again. But I'm glad I had the old ones.
And do you think that there is would you term something that looks like good love and bad love? Or would you just say, like, as you've said earlier on, it's about learning about yourself and expecting from yourself first before expecting from someone else. Would you say that there is, like, good love and bad love?
No, I'm not a person that deals in absolutes like that. I mean, there are things that are certainly very unhealthy. I think if you are saying that you love someone, you're saying that you love yourself, and then you're still, adhering to certain practices that are unhealthy, but good and bad, no. I don't think things are that, black and white. I don't think that's the way the world works. I think there are people that are hurting, people that are suffering, and so the only kind of love that they can show is diseased, and you can't really accept that if you want to be healthy. But good and bad, no.
That's really interesting, to not think in absolute terms, to just know that there is unhealthy
Well, I have a line in one of these poems saying some of us love badly. And when I say, it's oxymoronic itself,
I think
love
if
badly.
it's possible,
I mean,
to read that poem to us, because I also love that poem so much. It's on page 13 where you say, when it is, but it ain't.
But it ain't. And this is about contradiction, and it's about not really knowing why you're doing the thing, but knowing that you are doing it, and trying to stop, but not being able to, and what that does. You said it's which page is it on?
Page 13.
13. When it is, but it ain't. Some of us love badly. Sometimes the love is the type of love that implodes, folds in on itself, eats its insides, turns wine to poison, behaves poorly in restaurants, drinks, kisses other people, comes back to your bed at 4 a.m. smelling like everything outside, asks about your ex, is jealous of your ex, thinks everyone a rival. Some of us love others badly, love ourselves worse. Some of us love horrid, love beastly, love sick, love anti-light. Sometimes the love can't go home at night, can't sleep with itself, cannot contain itself, catches fire, destroys the belly, strips buildings, goes missing, punches, smashes heirlooms, tells lies, the best lies, writes poems, impresses people, chases lovers into corners, fucks around, leaves them longing, seasick, says yes, means anything but yes, tricks the body, kills the body, dances wild and walks away, smiling.
I mean, I was just deeply touched when you say, some of us love others badly, love ourselves worse, because that is true. I think in some instances, we find ourselves in situations where we don't extend the same love to ourselves that we do to other people.
Right.
I find myself in those cases a lot where, I think better of other people than of myself.
And then we wonder why it goes wrong. That when we know that it's all going to start from within, because you are going to make several mistakes if you're putting somebody else's needs and when I say that, I don't mean in the way when it's just love, and so you are love has a certain element to it that means you will think of others before yourself. But I'm talking about when it's never you first, and you only care about the other person. Of course, it's going to come tumbling down in the end.
No, that's true. And I think something profoundly that I see in your book is the way you talk about Black women in whatever capacity you find these Black women in. In one of your poems, you say something about the way Black women hold your heart. And that for me has deeply touched me, because I've experienced a plethora of Black women in my life who have the ability to hold my heart like nobody else. It reminds me about Tapiwe in his anthology, Zimbabwe. He says, the way that Black women write, the way that Black poets write about Black women will want you to call your mother and tell them that you love her. So, and I think your work is also that. But I wanted to know, what do you think about, Black women and loving Black women in whatever capacity? Because I'm reminded of Audre Lorde when she speaks about unloving and women, and just this idea of speaking about a revolutionary type of love towards Black women.
Well, I have had a Black mother. A Black matriarch in my family. Black women, I've been lucky enough to have loved countless Black women in my life, and the love really is nothing that you completely leave behind, and it's enduring, it's fulfilling, it's warm. It's hard and it's soft. I remember, I wrote that poem itself called Now That It's All Over, about a specific person. And, sometimes you just can't shake it. Even after you've gone away, even when the thing is over, it remains, because what you had was so powerful and there's nothing that you can do. to rid yourself of that. And I think I've grown past wanting to or needing to in those situations. You can carry somebody with you and not have them with you.
I think in one of your poems you also say that love, you say something about love is not always staying. You know, just because you love someone doesn't mean that you have to stay in the relationship. Sometimes it means walking away and loving people from a distance. And I really love that, because I don't think as people we're taught that love can exist outside of closeness and outside of choosing ourselves. Because I think when we enter into relationships, friendships, we love people and we're devoted to them. And sometimes we make bad decisions and don't put ourselves first, because all in the name of love. But I really like how the commander with which you speak, you're like, you know, it doesn't mean it's not love if you're leaving.
Right. Because sometimes you just have to save, you can't save anybody else but yourself. It isn't possible, you know, in this life. So sometimes the love, it's more of a loving act to do that from afar. Sometimes you're the problem. Sometimes you're not good for them.
That is true.
There are lots of ways you can love outside of those traditional means and outside of traditional relationships, whether it's your family or a lover or a friend.
And I mean, I
Sometimes
guess
you've got to take that step away.
I mean, speaking about black women and loving and being kind to yourself, there has been a wave of, like, you know, hashtag Me Too, hashtag Men Are Trash, like a global phenomena of like black women talking about like what has happened to them. And in some of your poems, you also talk about, like, you know, sexual assault that happens to women in your family that may have happened to you. Do you think it's important to write about it? Because I'm reminded of you know, what Audre Lorde speaks about in her piece when she says transforming silence into language and actions. He says, your silence will not protect you. Do you think that writing about these things was part of that, speaking out, but also part of healing for you?
Well, I always say the same thing, that sometimes it's not the actual writing of it, but the coming together and the sharing. When you learn, and this is with anything, with any issue that you want to bring to the fore, when you bring that out and then people say, oh, this happened to me, I can really relate to that. There is such a beauty in the fellowship, the understanding. You're no longer lonely, and we're connected with our stories. So I think that's the healing part of it. I really do. And yes, I do think it helps. It doesn't have to be writing. It could be, you could make a film of it, you could paint. It's any way that you can convey your story. It could be speaking in a support group or talking to your friend. Any way that you stop yourself from being isolated helps.
Yeah, that's true. I guess getting this sense of community and knowing that you're not alone.
Absolutely. Yes.
I wanted to say, about 3 months ago, I lost my mom while I was in the United States. She just passed away back in South Africa.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
One of the poems that really held me through that time, so thank you for the work that you do, your words have been healing to me personally, is you say in the poem, Mom, where you are, I hope that God comes down and shows you what goes where and doesn't shout because you're far too tired to care. I hope there's someone to tease the knots out your hair. I hope that good is good and right is right and fair is fair. And just wow. When I read that, I was like, that's what I hope, because I think black women in particular, black mothers, have gone through so much trauma in their lives that when they pass away, it's like resting and just the command, you say, I hope that God comes down and shows you what goes where and doesn't shout, because black women have been shouted at, black women have been beaten, black women have been erased. So just for black women to find a space, a resting place. So thank you. And again, I guess it speaks about your mom. You perhaps want to share the relationship that you may have had with your mom and the inspiration behind this particular poem.
Well, I it's so self-explanatory. The loss of your mother is a particularly, that experience is one that is totally unique, and it's life-changing, as you know, and it changes. It changes over time. The weight of it changes, but the impact doesn't. But it becomes, it moves around. And yes, you're right. This sense of them never being able to rest, the sense of them always working hard for lots of people, carrying the brunt of everything, of physical work, of emotional labour, of child rearing, of dealing with men, of dealing with the system, and everything that's designed to kind of keep them low. That's and if I can offer this, it's, there was something about my mother passing that I felt some relief, because then she's not out here dealing with whatever she was dealing with anymore.
I think after the trauma and the grief and the mourning, that is also how I feel now. I'm so happy that you're resting, because my God, that black woman went through a lot. She went through a lot. And I'm glad she's resting. And I really hope, like, as you're saying, that someone is really tying those knots, teasing those knots out her hair, and that what is a good thing is really a good thing. I hope that finally she and all the black women that I've lost, like my grandmother, like my aunt, like those black women, I truly hope that they're resting.
Yes.
Oh, yes, because like black women don't rest, man. They don't rest. And sometimes even in the grave, like, people will still be commanding and talking smack about them. So I really hope that they're resting. I mean, obviously we are a literary podcast, and it would be remiss of us not to ask, like, what is the last book that you read and loved?
Oh, I've just read The Mothers by Britt Bennett, it's a beautiful book about black womanhood, actually. I put that book down not long ago, but I'm constantly reading 3 or 4 books at the moment. I'm reading Aja Monet. My mother was a freedom fighter. I mean, this is just a wonderful time. Danez, Don't Call Us Dead, Danez Smith, I've read it about 3 times, but I keep going back to it because it's just so beautiful. And these things just make me feel so, I don't know if this is a term, but fertile in the literary sense. There's just so much. I'm making my way through an early copy of Freshwater by Awake Emezi. I hope I've said her name right, because, I'm reading that. And I just read, not long ago, I went back to Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. And just so many different things, because the way I read it, I have like several books on rotation. I'll dip in and dip out, and dip in and dip out.
I understand that.
Yeah, just to fill myself up with as much as possible.
And also, so obviously you're a poet, you're in the poetry scene. What are some of your favorite contemporary poets, or who rather are some of your favorite contemporary poets?
Well, this is constantly changing because I'm reading so much, but I'm at the moment, obviously there are the staples, the ones that Tapiwa Mugabe, the Naira, Wahid. I'm reading Sam Sachs. I am obviously reading Danez, and I'm reading Aja. Safia Elio. I'm reading her work. And I don't want to say this person's name wrong. I'm gonna actually Google it so I can have. Is it Kabe Akbar? as well.
Some good reading, some good reading.
Oh my goodness, some amazing readers. Thai Freedom Fords, just some amazing spirits that I've happened to meet on tour as well. And that's the beautiful thing about going on tour, because often you're reading with poets that you've only just kind of met. Oh, Tongo Isaac Martin, who is an amazing poet, and his book I love. I love it. I really love it. So many. I'm sorry about all those.
That's okay. I guess also because Burn has just come out, I guess re-come out because, rebranding a few more poems with Penguin. Is there anything else in the pipeline? Like, can we get some more of Yrsa for our bookshelves?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a book called The Terrible, which is out in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a memoir. It is a memoir. I never thought I'd write a memoir, but there we go. They asked me if I had what I was working on next. I just started writing, and before I knew it, I thought, well, this is all true. And then it turns out I'm writing this memoir. Didn't ask to do it, and it has surprised me quite a lot, but there you go. That's what life does. And yeah, it will be published by Penguin in June.
Ooh, that's exciting. Oh my gosh, that's very exciting. Yes, more of Yrsa.
It's very gritty. As it was coming out, I was like, goodness, do I really want to say all this? But so that's the way it came out. So what can you do?
And also, I wanted to know if there is any advice that you would like to give to young writers?
Yes, I would say don't edit, don't overthink. Write what is the closest thing to you, and sometimes that takes time, and sometimes that takes writing when you're not really all that conscious. And for that I mean free writing early in the morning, or anytime you feel the most relaxed. I like to do it when I've been dreaming, because that's when I'm just don't care and I'm just saying all the craziest stuff. But anything, just do not edit yourself. Don't scrutinize. Write the thing, and then you can go back. You can edit it later, but really just let yourself go. This is the time you can be the wildest. This is the time you can do what you want. Nobody's going to judge it, and even if they do, then that's no consequence to you. So that's what I would say. Get wild, get dirty, and write.
Get wild, get dirty, and write. And I also wanted to know if people wanted to get your book, Bone, where can they find it?
Well, it can be purchased through Amazon. It can also be purchased through, because I know that they were saying that on the continent it's difficult to get from Amazon. So there is Penguin Random House have reissued it. So if you have a local bookseller, you just need to go and harass them. So I think in South Africa that if it's exclusive, I'm sure that exclusive can order them.
Exclusive has some copies. I've seen people sending me pictures to be like, look at what has come here.
Great. So I would say if your local bookseller doesn't have it, just annoy them, and then they'll get it in.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you so much, Yrsa. So at the Cheeky Natives, what we tend to do is we rate books by giving people pieces of land, because when the revolution comes and we get our land back, we will provide you with the title deeds. And you spoke a lot about Cape Town. Is there any particular place you liked in Cape Town that we can just give to you?
Oh, okay. What part of Cape Town? Do you know, I have to be in... I'm sorry, everyone's going to think, I like Gordon's Bay, but no, I'm not going to go. I think I'm going to say, only because I lived there, and it just means a lot to me, I would just have to say Kloof Street, because
there we go. Upper Cape Town, Kloof Street is awarded to Yrsa for her incredible work in healing, in talking about Black women, in talking about love, in talking about accountability, and in talking about the full spectrum of Blackness without any form of gaze. And also in not editing, because she said, we exist as unedited bodies. So Kloof Street will belong to you, Yrsa.
Yay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Yrsa, for joining us on the Cheeky Natives. We are truly privileged to have someone of your stature, someone of your influence, having a conversation to talk to us. As the Cheeky Natives, we want to create a space of archiving Black stories. So this conversation, we hope, will go long in archiving Black stories about authors, about Black women, We really appreciate that you took the time to come and talk to me or talk to us as the Cheeky Natives.
No problem. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Also, people, as you've heard, the book is available at Exclusive. We're going to try and get more people to buy the book, more bookstores to buy the book. So please get a copy of Bone. It is imperative that you support and buy Black. And also another important thing, do not DM the author. Do not ask the author for a PDF copy. Don't do that. Buy. Yrsa, where can we, if people aren't following you, where can we follow you online, your handle?
I am Yrsa Daley-Ward, which is Yrsa Daley-Ward, and that's on IG, that's on Facebook, and that's on Twitter. That's the last one. Yeah, all three, Yrsa Daley-Ward.
Thank you so much, Yrsa, for joining us, and thank you all Cheeky Native listeners. Until next time, ciao.